What I hadn't really understood was the value of the community. You come for the commercials, you stay for the community. Humans don't like uncertainty. It creates this mode of being frozen, of lack of decisions. And I think it can be very lonely. Running a business can be lonely on its own. School was often challenging for me. And I think if you didn't fit into these tight tramlines, it was very much they didn't know what to do with you. You often then feel like you're not part or you're not able. And that eats away at you. Where is my brain going differently? How am I seeing things differently to how others are seeing things differently? And if that wasn't the right thing for me, well, I have to find my own way. I learned early on that failure is a positive thing. It teaches you and it pushes you on a different road. The Americans often talk about, if you're going to fail, fail fast. The people that we produce would be even better if we could hone in on harnessing their skills, their unique skills, and making them feel like they have that superpower. I believe everybody has a superpower.
Hi, Austen Clark. I'm your host today on our next episode of NG Member Podcasts. Today I'm joined by Peter Strahan. We're here in Glasgow at Gala. We're going to have a great conversation. We've got some great subjects to cover with Peter. But what I will ask just before we get into it, can I ask you to subscribe, leave a comment or hit a like? We're trying to build this channel and I can only do it with your help. So remember, hit the subscribe, leave a comment or like. Let's get into this. Peter. We've known one another for a long time, haven't we? How many years would you say that we've been around one that Evolve Network Group? So tell me.
Yeah, we've been in each other's circles for quite some time,
Yeah.
and I think connecting in over Network Group and many of events throughout the world that we've attended. It's always great to see people like yourself, you know. But I think it must be 7-8 years at this stage now. Yeah.
So Peter, we're here in Glasgow. We're here with Network Group. So why and how long have you been involved with this organisation?
Funnily enough, at a juncture in our business, about 2018, 17 or 18, and I can't remember which year it was, I ended up at an event in Milton Keynes. I think it was a vendor event, and we were looking to see what the community was in the UK, because obviously we're based in Ireland, and there wasn't the same type of events or community in Ireland at all. So we came kind of hunting for our people, I suppose, in the UK, and very nicely got introduced to a man called David Tulip.
So it was David that actually you met first?
It was.
Oh, that was a colourful character to meet, I bet. Was he informed?
He was. So
Excellent.
Alison Cooney, and I to this day
from Sync, was she at Sync IT at the same time?
She was, and she's going to correct me if I'm wrong here now, but I think she had only been a member for a brief time before that. So if anybody complains about me being a member of any group, I refer them to Alison in Sync, herself and Joe.
Perfect.
So I got to meet the wonderful character of David Tulip.
He certainly is.
He certainly is, and I'd heard things of Network Group. I'd heard some things about it, but I wasn't really clear on what it was. Some of the things around being a buying group, you know, you get better pricing with certain vendors. What I hadn't really understood was the value of the community.
Yeah.
And I think there's often a quote or a statement that I say is you come for the commercials, you stay for the community.
It's a wonderful phrase.
Yeah, and I think it's borne true, and the people and the friendships and the trust that we've garnered together as a group and a community over the last, certainly as long as I've been involved in it, and only 8 or 6 or 7 of the 31 years of this community, wonderful community, has been transformative, and it led me into other communities such as Evolve, and Evolve has been a wonderful thing for Dan and myself, and helping to grow.
How many years have you been involved?
Lantech. So roughly the same, about 7 years.
And is that joint? Do you get different things from both? I mean, Evolve, I was involved for 10 years, so I know some of the history. But what's the differences between these two? What does Network offer and what does Evolve offer?
They're quite different, and I think that's a really good thing. I think that network group, and there's people who are in both circles. So I would frequently go to network group or to Evolve, and I'd see the same people. And I think it's community. I think what Evolve has is an accountability structure. Every quarter you've got to show up with your numbers in, the benchmarking, you've got to report on how the business has gone. It's a mini board that you're standing up in front of these 8 or 9 other companies. And that is accountability. You do not want to walk into that room unprepared.
Why?
Unprepared.
Why?
Because you'll be taken apart.
You'll be annihilated.
You will. Yeah. If the room is functioning well,
yes.
And it's well facilitated, and it's exactly what you need. Because often, us entrepreneurs, we report to no one but our clients, and sometimes internally you can not do things. You can say you're going to do something and not do something, and sometimes you need to be held accountable by your peers. And Evolve certainly that program that they have running is wonderful. On the other side, in network group, the people. I have come to network group, with an issue in the back of my mind, and I would be talking to somebody over dinner or over lunch or during a session, and I'd voice that issue, and somebody would give me a nugget, and I'd take that nugget away, and it back into the business, and it would transform something, some issue, some problem. And it's funny, I spoke to another Irish member, one of our main competitors who joined quite recently. And he said to me, I said, how are you getting on? And he said to me, he says, every time I go to network group, I come away with something that changes the business. And that's exactly what it should do. That's the power of a community, of coming together, shared problems, shared successes, shared everything. Actually, if we roll back to that terrible time of COVID, for most business owners, it was an incredibly challenging time. Yeah. Why? Yes. Uncertainty. Humans don't like uncertainty. It creates this mode of being frozen, of lack of decisions. And I think it can be very lonely. In fact, running a business can be lonely on its own. But certainly that time, I think a lot of people felt on their own. And bringing back David set up a community call with the entire network group every Thursday. And I'm delighted to say that is still going.
That's stronger now.
Yeah, it is stronger
now.
Absolutely. It's taken on a different frame now. There's multiple people running it. It's structured differently. But if I wind back to that time, when the business community was really pulling on IT services, yet people were very concerned about what is this, first of all? How long is it going to go on for? How is it going to impact different businesses? We saw hospitality in particular really struggle.
Decimated. In some ways,
absolutely.
They sent everybody home. Nobody knew when they were going to come back to work, or if they were ever going to come back to work.
Governments were printing money. Yeah. It was a time, and without that lack of certainty around how long is this going to go on for, I think we reframed our budget about 7 or 8 times within a short few months, just trying to work out where we were. Why? Because our staff are who we are. And somebody said to me before, it's like, oh, you're the boss. It's like, well, I'm the boss of nothing if the staff don't deliver, if we don't come together and build culture that delivers what our vision is. So my staff our staff are incredibly important to me, and their livelihoods. I feel responsible to them, and it was really, really important that we had a proper functioning, protected business so that we wouldn't have to lay people off.
So on that one, just for the audience, just to settle this in, because we're speaking to a lot of people here in the UK and Ireland, but we're also speaking to people across Europe and into the States as well. Just to position this, you are Peter Strahan, CEO of Lantech in Ireland, but you've got multiple offices. You've got offices in Ireland and in the UK. So you got a foot in both camps. Is that right?
Yeah. We've staff and we've clients based in Ireland and the UK. We have a group structure, so we have a company registered in the UK, a company registered in Ireland, and we serve our clients across both regions. And we've clients in Canada, clients in the US. So we've really feathered our wings quite a lot.
Really.
Yeah, we have, and it's. I think that we travelled very well. One thing that a business partner and I, Dan.
Who's Dan?
Daniel Cronin is he's our operations director.
And have you started the business together with, or did he join you?
No, I started the business on my own. Back in 2008, 2007, 2008. Around the time, actually, my wife and I found out we were pregnant with my daughter.
Is this your youngest, the first, or?
She's my first, and it was a time where, the realization of having to put food on the table, survival.
What age were you then?
Oh, I would have probably been 28.
28.
Yeah, and
a bit
younger, actually, 20,
so
27.
what is the origin of Lantech? What was it? How did it come about? I mean, you're 28-year-old, you're married, your wife's due to have your first child, and now you're going to start up an IT company. How did that come about? So where did that come from? I mean, we spoke a little bit off camera about schooling maybe wasn't the right thing for you at the time, but then you came through that. So where did you come through that journey to get to the start of Lantech?
Yeah, school was often challenging for me, and not from a social perspective. I think I was very lucky to go to a good, inclusive, good school. I think just academically, I just didn't fit into a lot of the way things were taught, the way things were, the educators, and that's no fault of the teachers who were there. I think there's many people who went through those schools and did incredibly well. So,
totally agree.
But I think back, so I don't want to sound too old, but back in those days, if you didn't fit into the tight tram lines, and I will say I'm married to a school teacher.
You are. So, by the way, so am I. A retired school teacher, but still a cool teacher.
And I think if you didn't fit into these tight tram lines, if you went outside of them, it was very much they didn't know what to do with you, and you tended to fall behind. And if you fell behind, it was very hard to try and catch up to where you should be. And I think then you often then feel like you're not part or you're not able, and that eats away at you. And I remember certainly feeling not able to do things, and feeling that I was not worth the same as maybe other people were.
That's interesting, because I've always found you to have a curious mind. You're always looking ahead, looking forward, looking for the alternative, looking for the differentiator. And you're saying that you didn't fit in. So I'm wondering if that curious mind was something that in school you almost might have been not fulfilled with all the lessons that you were.
If my parents would hear, they'd tell you stories of me taking apart things as a child and struggling to put them back together again. So I always seem to have some profit left over, some screws left over from things, But I suppose I don't like the term grafter, but I think that I was always quite driven in terms of what I wanted to do. I was quite probably pushy around certain things, driven.
Determination.
Yeah, determination is probably a very good word for it. I was determined, often unsure, not afraid to fail.
That's an interesting point. That's something I don't hear people say very often. You were actually prepared to fail.
Well, I've become pretty comfortable with it because I had failed in school. Like I really struggled, and it was like, and even when I went to college, it was, you would understand the assignment, you would get the assignment, and then you deliver the assignment. You put so much effort into it, and then your tutor or whoever will come back to you and say you completely missed.
Yeah,
I was like, well, how? Why? Explain it to me. Please tell me. What can I need? What do I need to do? Where am I going? Where is my brain going differently? How am I seeing things differently to how others are seeing things differently, or the way they're seeing them? And I think that was, so I'd felt that, if that wasn't the right thing for me, well, I have to find my own way potentially. And
so this is, I will go out and find my way rather than fit into somebody else's block. I will start something myself.
I don't know where it came from. I think frustration. I went out, I had an interest in computers, I had an interest in taking things apart, I had an inquisitive mind, I suppose, in terms of electronic. And if you think about these things, it was back to the day of the BBC computer. Oh, yeah. Do you remember one of those? Oh, yeah. I think my dad got one, and I think he had spent 18 hours. I don't think he went to bed actually the night we got it, reading the manual as he would. He was a lawyer, so he would read files. So he would take the manual and read it. I'd throw the manual away and try and figure it out. And he probably had more success than I did. But that was an interesting point, my entry point to technology. And even when we would travel, I'd always be interested in gadgets and things, would do things for you and try and automation and whatever it would be. And I love tinkering with things. It brought me, I had a passion around cars. I used to race quite a lot, and I really enjoyed the racing piece because, and it might sound quite lonely, but you're in that cart or that car, and it's you against the clock. And you have to be meticulous in that car as much as you can be, but you've got to be adventurous. So you're always balancing being consistent, because consistent is quick, particularly over many, many laps. Yeah. But you're also experimenting every single time with your lines into a corner, your braking points, everything. And then you're managing tire wear, you're managing fuel, you're managing lots of other things. You're managing all the drivers behind you, or often in my case, in front of me. But it's you against the clock. It's you against everybody else. And I suppose I took that determination forward, and I had an incredibly patient father and mother, I suppose, who would drive me to Scotland, to the UK, all over Ireland, competing.
Go-karting or
racing?
Karting,
competing, and I learned so much from that process. For everything from taking things apart, even just getting wheel tracking right, rebuilding engines, all taught in the shed on my own, figuring it out. And I figured out that it was me. I learned better by doing rather than by theory. And I think when I look back to school, you're given these books, you're given all this material. And I see it when people we've hired, they come out of college and they come in and we expect them, they're going to have a certain amount of skill. And we often see that they don't, and they struggle. And we often see those people who have learned through doing, through apprenticeships, through time in the seat, through working with other people. They often are heads and shoulders above those who've learned purely from theory.
So, picking up on that with Lantech, you started Lantech in 2007. It's now nearly 20 years in its origins, and you built it. Did you build it from scratch? I take it it's down here as you are the founder.
Yeah, I am the founder. It sounds good now, but it didn't sound good back then.
I bet.
My dad might kill me for raising this, but I remember I'd won a couple of small things. We were servicing some very small companies, and I was sitting at the side of a road. I'd sold a two-seater sports car. My brother always called it a hairdresser's car, but I sold a two-seater sports car, bought a van. And I was sitting in this van at the side of a road at the city centre of Dublin, and we just won a fairly big infrastructure project, bigger than the amount of money that I had in my bank account.
Okay.
So I had to ring my father, and I had to ask him for his credit card. Could I borrow some money on the credit card and to fund this infrastructure project? And he very kindly, although abruptly, agreed, but I had to repay it within 2 weeks.
Okay.
So I wasn't getting the full credit terms. I was only getting 2 weeks credit terms. He was trying to de-risk himself quite significantly. Yeah. And I suppose that was the start of it. It snowballed from there, and then that taught me not to be reliant on anybody else. Yes. I've never had any debt in the business. We've never relied on anybody else. We built it from nothing. my dad was good influence. He always was always encouraging to keep the overheads light, not to be highly leveraged, to be de-risked, and to work in a responsible manner. And we did that, but we've taken that culture and that thing into our clients. That we would very much we would try and identify risk. We would try to work to reduce that type of risk for them. But we've built the business in a very responsible way. And I was very, very lucky. You asked about Daniel Cronin. I was very lucky. During the recession in 2008, 2009, there was a state training body called FOSS. And I think Dan had been working for a company called Benchmark. He was working shifts at nighttime, rebuilding switches, network switches, way beyond my capabilities. I did electronic engineering, I think, in college. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he did that. And he wanted to get outside of working nights. I think he felt that this was not a good life decision in terms of a career path. So he put himself forward to work with FOSS, get trained up, and be positioned in our company. And for us, it meant that we didn't have to pay him. The state would pay him, sponsor him for, I think, 6 months.
De-risked it for you.
Yeah, 6 months.
Yeah.
And he was one of our first or second employees at the time. And we nicknamed him the Sponge.
The Sponge.
The Sponge.
The Sponge.
Yeah. And you know Dan very well.
The Sponge.
He is incredibly inquisitive. And like me, would like to know how things work. Not just to be told how things work. He wants to get in and know how they work, how they stick together. And he is so determined in his nature to unpack that and to know that, how something works. And he doesn't rest until he does. And we ended up following the work. There was no work in Ireland.
Yeah. This is recession 2008.
Yeah, there was just no work. And we were lucky to be connected with a number of different businesses all over the world. And we ended up traveling and just following the work. I shared hotel rooms with the guy. We've traveled everywhere, and his work ethic was just phenomenal. And he was the problem with him in some ways was that he set my expectation of what employees do,
so
only to be rudely woken as the business grew and grew and grew. Like, why is he not working the same way that Dan is?
That's what I was expecting.
Yeah. So I had to reset it.
So what level? What's Lantech now? How many people and what's the turnover?
About 27, 4.7 million. And we've been growing about 26% a year. So it's a little bit of a runaway train, and that's just down to, there's no clever, big marketing tactics there. It's through relationships and hard work and. A really good team.
This is
fantastic.
Maybe what we said earlier. This is your opportunity is to drive and build your thing, your organisation, rather than be in the cookie cutter model that didn't suit you. So that's interesting. So we're at the stage now. We're moving forward. What's the thing about them behind the man? And I'm thinking about some of the things you mentioned, karting and cars. You and I have spoken before. I think you've got quite a bit of a passion for cars and actually like tinkering. In fact, where you not often, you and I have met, and I always laugh at this, is Peter's coming back from being at one of our events overseas, and lo and behold, he's got a car engine, or he's got an exhaust pipe. Was it a manifold the last time you had a car manifold that you took back from the States?
A short shift kit, actually.
A short shift kit. Whatever that is.
Yeah, I have a passion. I blame my father for this, but and his brothers, all into cars growing up and rallying, and I bit the bug, and it's an expensive habit, unfortunately. So I've been quite limited in what I can do. And obviously, with a young family, there's only a certain amount of hours in the week and a certain amount of hours in the day. I was lucky enough. One of the advantages of the recession was that there was people fire selling cars. Okay. And I was incredibly lucky to pick up a beautiful Porsche 993 15, 16, 17 years ago. And I couldn't afford to do it now. And that has become my project, and
This
I rebuilt the suspension over last weekend. I'm still tinkering away, and then I learned today that the air conditioning condenser needs to be replaced. But anyway, but I like that, and I like it now more than ever in some ways, is because I can go there on a weekend, and my father would sometimes help, and he's brilliant. He's got an amazing problem-solving brain, and I can tinker in silence. I can tinker with him. I don't have anybody else asking me questions or it's just you. And often, in our world, a lot of what we do now is virtual. It's you do something and you don't necessarily see the actual physical thing that you've done. But when you work on something like a car, an old car, you can see it, you can feel it, you can embrace it, and you fix those problems. And you come across something that's really complex within an older car. Complex to me, not complex to a professional mechanic, but complex to me. And having the right tool, having to put something together to make something work is satisfying. And I suppose I kind of found my calling a little bit around that kind of stuff, of being able to pull things apart, put things back together. But
I'm willing to share on camera that I believe you've maybe got another one coming home.
I'll keep that surprise for another day.
Okay. Watch this space. Part 2's coming.
Yeah. So I think that, when you look back to I think everything in business, from when I started, and it was a good session that we sat through today was, learning, for a keynote speaker around learning from failure and embracing failure.
Frank Dick.
Yeah. I learned early on that failure is a positive thing, because it teaches you and it pushes you on a different road. And I think the Americans often talk about fail fast. Yeah. If you're going to fail fast. And I think they have there's an awful lot of truth to that. And it's funny, one of the staff, I won't mention who it is, but one of the staff members in our team at the moment, who's fantastic, they came to an interview for a particular role. And during the interview, we'd asked a number of questions. The interview kind of fell apart. I was a bit concerned as to why it was falling apart for this role. So I asked a question about a horrible question: where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And the candidate broke down in tears. And I inquired a bit about why, and the person was lost. And I said, that's really interesting. They had a really successful career in a particular area, and they just didn't feel that they belonged in that particular role. And it kind of hit me, because back to my thing in school and potentially college and other things. So I said, well, we have this other role that I think you'd be perfect for. So they agreed, and we said we'd give it 6 months and we see what would happen. And we're 3 years in, and they have taken to that like a duck to water. But the thing that we came out of that was try everything.
Yeah. Because
you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't like something, you can tick that off the box.
Yeah.
And you can continue to find what's important to you. And, the Find Your Why piece, the books that are written all about finding your why. And they say your why is set roughly around the ages of 12. I think there's a bit of movement on that. And I think that we're not taught in school these things. We're not taught in school to understand what we're good at. We're not taught in school around business. I know there's business studies, particularly in Ireland's business studies, but we're not taught about financial management. We're not taught about these things. And I think that, I think that our education system and the people that we produce would be even better if we could hone in on what makes people tick, harnessing their skills, their unique skills, and making them feel like they have that superpower. I believe everybody has a superpower.
It's interesting you say that. We just did an interview with Frank Dick. It's another podcast series. Please go and watch it. It's just very good. And he mentioned
do that thing where you put it up here onto our right or left or down here.
There. It actually takes me back to my last question. And it's around leadership, and you've spoken about it, and you've been somebody I've admired for many years in the fact that the way you lead yourself and you lead your leadership. And my question is, can you learn to be a leader, or are you born a leader? Is it natural, or can it be learned?
I don't really like the label leader. It's one of those terms that tries to pigeonhole people. And I really dislike pigeonholing people.
Since school days.
Yeah, I really, really dislike it. I think that there are certain people. I think everybody can be a leader, if you look at it that way. But I think that there are certain people who have a vision, who have an ability to bring people with them, to inspire people, a story potentially, a vision, a path. And there's so many stories that are told, whether it's in books and films, it doesn't matter. And I think that there are certain skills that you can continue to learn and be built on. I think there's a foundational piece there that you're born with. That some people have that drive, that passion, and I think that certainly I've learned from Network Group, and I've learned from Evolve, and I've learned from many other people how to be better at helping people be better in what they do, and creating space, a safe space, and allowing people learn. And I think you might have said it to me. You were quite surprised at one of the galas a number of years ago. We brought quite a lot of our team. And you asked me, I think it was you. You asked me. You said, "Why have you brought so many people here?" And I said, "Well, I want to show them what the industry is and the people within this industry. The more that they learn and grow and develop and see what's out there, meet the vendors, meet other people, the more that they're going to grow, and the more that they're going to help us on our mission in Lantech." And that was really, really important. And our staff that have stayed with us can go to any event and bump into David Tulip. They can bump into yourself. They feel accepted and embraced when they come to any of these events. And I think that's really, really important. And what that's created, what's fostered actually, is there's other now members bringing their staff. And we've seen this interaction at other department levels within our businesses. And actually one thing that we've done, and was very passionate about it actually, and the executive has done this over the last couple of years, was to build tracks. Yes. And those tracks were skilled around marketing. I think marketing was the first one. Because often, and I felt it in my early career when I worked as an IT person for a law firm, I was the only IT person there. It could be very lonely. And often in an IT business, you might have a marketing person, and it's one marketing person. So why not bring all these marketing people together from all these businesses and let them share ideas, share learnings, grow together? And now we've done that with the service team and various other departments and account management. And, that's the success and that's the legacy that I think that groups like Network Group should be very proud of.
I think you're totally right. Peter, it's been absolutely fascinating. Once again, I knew that this was going to be a great conversation. I know not everybody's comfort zone to sit in front of cameras and microphones, and we're all feeling a little bit jaded from the week that we've had. Peter, thanks very much. It's been absolutely awesome. If the audience wants to get in contact with you, how's the best way to get in contact with you? Should just give them a shout. How best can we get in touch?
Yeah, look, you'll get me on LinkedIn. I think the business community lives on LinkedIn. You can obviously go to our website, lantechgroup.com. But hopefully you'll be hearing a little bit more from us in the next couple of months anyway.
Let's hope so. Thank you. Right. Absolutely knew this was going to be a belter of a conversation with Peter. We've had lots of conversations in the past. That's us. We're finishing here in Glasgow. This is our Network Group's second event in the year, Q2. It's also our gala. So we're going to leave just now. I'm going to head down to the bar. We're going to have a couple of beers. We're going to meet the community. Then we're heading in to have our black tie dinner and awards. More of that will give you updates through LinkedIn and through our social media. But please, once again, if you like the content, if you enjoy what you've seen here today, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, leave a like. It goes a long way to build this community. That's us. We're finished here in Glasgow. Thank you.